Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. Okay, let's talk a game that wasn't nearly as captivating, but it made a statement. New England 19, Chicago 3, 21 straight drives for the Bears without a touchdown. Third straight game, no offensive identity. Caleb under 54% completion rate, third straight game. He's lost. 1 for 14 on third down. Pitiful. And Drake Maye, again, 7 different targets. They didn't ask him to do much. They averaged 5.5 yards a play without, much to work with. But I think the story here is, and I've said this, poorly coached teams, Brandon Staley last year. Start the year. Remember that, Brandon? I think it was last year. They almost beat Miami to start a wild, crazy game. And then about week 6, you're like, man, they're not well coached. And then by like week 12, the players have quit. A poorly run business can fool people 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, that Tennessee win, they were outplayed by the Titans at home in week 1. It was a Will Levis mistake, but that's an L. I think what you look at this team now is you look at a poorly coached team. There's a lack of belief. There's absolutely no identity offensively. They average 2.4 yards a play. Ryan Poles said last week, we're not making coaching changes. This is not Jacksonville. Chicago is a loud media. Do you fire Matt Eberflus during the season?
I think there's a decent chance by the time, we wake up or before lunch on Monday, he's relieved of his duties. You can't go back-to-back games like they have just had when they were a play away from looking like, is this team about to win 10 or 11 games? And it now feels like if I told you they win one more game the rest of the season, we've talked about their schedule, they're in shambles. Their coaching staff's an embarrassment right now, and it's going to get absolutely destroyed by every Bears fan, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I also think that, like, Ryan Poles bears responsibility. He drafted Rome Odunze, who we all like. Their offensive line is pitiful, and there were countless offensive linemen on the board at pick 9 that would have. Who's Jim Harbaugh take? He takes an offensive lineman where it's like, take a receiver. He's like, no. Who would Andy Reid have taken in that spot? He would have taken a guard or a tackle because you have to protect that guy. And they took a wide receiver when they already got multiple wide receivers. And let's face it, they got a problem on their hands because DJ Moore, who for like a 5 straight year stretch, everyone in the NFL is like, listen, I don't know. This guy, it doesn't matter what quarterback he's playing with. This guy's a stud. People liked him. He's high character. He does not like Caleb. They have an issue. They have an issue, and they just extended him. Now, obviously, it's not like if you have to pick one or the other, they have no choice. They're all in on Caleb Williams, but that is a problem for them. And I saw this with the 49ers, and I'm not comparing Caleb to Trey Lance. He's obviously a much better player, but they never believed in Trey Lance. Not the coaching staff, not the front office, the players. Why they wanted Jimmy, why they had no problem going to Purdy, because they see every day in practice. I think we were talking before you jumped on about I think Nick Wright had a take about just go with Trey Lance right now because maybe you get something and best case he just sucks and you lose. You know why you can't do that? Because Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb would be like, what the fuck are we doing? Because they see practice. And I think you have this Caleb Williams situation. Everyone's going to point at Shane Waldron, who I always kind of liked, but clearly this is not going well for him. And Eberflus oversaid is going to get fired. But there are plays to be made for Caleb, and he doesn't look remotely close. Even if you are a Caleb supporter, which with you, like most people, I would have drafted him number 1 overall. But the draft happened. Now we're 10 games in. There are plays. It's not all his fault, but I think we also have to acknowledge Drake Maye plays in an organization that's in turmoil. The former head coach, who's one of the most legendary sports figures of all times, ripping Gerard Mayo 3 weeks ago. Everyone's ripping the owner. The coaching staff's more than questionable. There's not that much talent. You watch Drake Maye, you're like, God, he was the best quarterback by a wide margin on the field.
No question.
And the other thing, Colin, is let's use Jared Goff as an example. Remember that rookie season? It felt like, is this guy even an NFL player? But the one thing you knew Jared Goff could do in college was he was a pocket quarterback. So he was never going to have to run. He's a pocket. If you could protect him, he could play in the pocket. There is just a question with Caleb, can he play within the pocket? That was a question coming out. It's not something he's comfortable doing. You don't just get to freelance all the time in the NFL. So it's 1, 2, 3, get rid of the ball. Now, are his receivers not getting open all the time? Obviously, some plays, but I do think there's a legit question of like what offense to make this guy successful. Like I watched Drake Maye, it's like I think that guy could fit in a lot of offenses.
Yeah.
I thought Jaden was like, I think he's going to have to play in like more of a Lamar style. I'm watching like, well, what Lamar is now, what Lamar was when he was really young, not the version
Yeah.
now. And you watch Jaden right now, it's like this guy's awesome in the pocket. So I just think there's question marks on Caleb that you look at this job like this is why I'm like Mike Vrabel. Like I'm not looking for Caleb to throw 40 touchdowns anymore. Maybe that's not his game. Let's just kind of go what Pete Carroll did in 13 and 14. Like, hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to have a tough defense. You're going to play within my system. We're taking the cooking utensils away from your hands.
That's what Philadelphia has done with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts today is throwing 24 times, and it's very effective. He throws a good deep ball. They're not letting Jalen Hurts. And by the way, outside of a Mahomes or a Josh Allen, I don't want my guys throwing 42 times. I don't want my offensive lineman backing up 42. I want him going forward 42 times. It's interesting because
Jalen's a little less herky-jerky, though. Caleb, I think, is a little shorter area. I think Jalen's a better runner, but little more quick twitch. And to me, his herky-jerkiness throws everything off. And part of it's young. He's kind of seeing ghosts. But it's just, I don't know if we've seen something this go back to like Sam Darnold Jets. Like this is a train wreck, Colin, offensively.
Yeah. Well, when he was coming out, I talked to every scout I could, and they all had the same concern. There were two concerns. Number one was accuracy. People said, I think we could clean it up, but he gets really erratic. Every game with USC, they're like, he gets real streaky, and then he just has, a Notre Dame game where it's just nothing works, like for an entire half. The second thing they said is, and guys said, didn't love the fingernails, didn't love jumping into the crowd with mom, really emotional. Doesn't mean he's a bad kid, but he's really emotional. And really emotional players tend to be high and low, especially when they're young. So you're going to have to deal with a very emotional kid with some accuracy issues. And it kind of goes back to my say it out loud. Those aren't great. Highly emotional player, accuracy issues. Bo Nix is very stoic. Accuracy is not an issue. It just sounds better. So
it's Russell's defining characteristic, how just kind of, just fake optimistic it feels like but it works.
It works for him. And I think with Caleb, he can be a bit moody. I remember the game at USC. I think it was year one with they went to Corvallis. He had a terrible first half. He got really moody on the sidelines. I think they came back to win that game, but it was the first time I thought, yeah, dude, you're on TV. This is a big TV game. Come on, get it together. And I think
I feel like
real.
He goes in the shell more now. He just like sits by himself on the bench. Like guys, we got to work together and figure some stuff out. You can't isolate in this position.
Yeah, and I think that was a Jay Cutler issue, by the way, in Chicago. Cutler was a guy that would just go by himself, hang in the
isolation,
corner.
yeah.
And it's not what you want.